Good afternoon. From the KUOW newsroom, this is Seattle Now. I'm Paige Browning with a roundup of today's top stories. It's Thursday, January 22nd. The U.S. House today passed a spending package totaling $1.2 trillion. One of the bills funds the Department of Homeland Security and ICE through September. Washington Congress members voted on the bill along party lines, Republicans for and Democrats against, except for Democratic Representative Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez of Southwest Washington. She broke with Dems and voted for the spending bill. In a statement, she said, overly aggressive slogans like defund ICE are not the solutions, and that in a shutdown, ICE would continue operating with limited oversight. In city politics, how to handle drug crimes is an early topic this year. Seattle's new mayor and new city attorney want to emphasize diversion rather than prosecution for people arrested for public drug use. Arrests and charges for drug possession were up in 2025 over 2024. Brandy McNeil is deputy director of the organization that oversees the city's Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program, LEAD. She says collaborating with police is an important part of their process.
We want, and it is critical to the success of the program, that officers that are out on the street, who are seeing folks every day, who are responding to calls every day, retain their discretion to be able to say what makes the most sense and what doesn't.
McNeil says diversion teams will have more funding this year to train police and take more referrals. Seattle Police Chief Sean Barnes says multiple approaches to quality of life crimes are needed, including arrests, diversion, and physical improvements in drug hotspots. Sticking with city politics, what do Seattle's middle schoolers, college students, and young working professionals want from Mayor Katie Wilson? As Noelle Gasca reports, Wilson's using her first 100 days in office to find out.
No, I think I'm thinking a lot about how...
About 50 of Mayor Wilson's youngest constituents gathered on the University of Washington's campus for a listening session with the mayor and members of her transition team. It was their chance to tell her what issues they want to see tackled by City Hall and offer suggestions, like this idea about making it easier to socialize and find new friends.
So the proposal is that Katie Wilson should give everyone dogs. I like that idea.
Everyone gets a dog. There's a dog park in every neighborhood.
That's not actually a bad idea.
26-year-old Jamin Patu wanted to talk about gentrification in Rainier Beach. He says there have been some good changes in the neighborhood over the last decade, like new sidewalks and a remodeled park. But he's also noticed fewer Black and brown families in the area.
Well, I feel like it's just an unfortunate occurrence that these changes are coming when Black and brown people aren't being able to experience that kind of those kinds of resources.
Patu says if Mayor Wilson is going to do anything to address gentrification, she'll need to work with local nonprofits who are in the streets, tackling the issue head on, and continue to give people opportunities to tell her about the challenges they're facing. Noelle Gasca, KUOW News.
That Save the Date is finally coming tomorrow for when long-lost partners, the 1 line and 2 line, will merge. Sound Transit officials say they'll tell us when the lines will connect and trains will start running along I-90 across Lake Washington. The 2 line will connect downtown Seattle with Mercer Island, Bellevue, and Redmond nearly 18 years after voters approved it. Stay tuned for that tomorrow. More details today on Washington's request for federal aid after December's record flooding. Governor Bob Ferguson is requesting more than $20 million from FEMA for disaster relief. Casey Martin has more.
Last month, nearly 4,000 homes were damaged by flooding rivers after heavy rainstorms.
Businesses who can't recover, homes that can't be reoccupied.
Julie De La Sara is chief of emergency management in Skagit County, one of the hardest hit areas in the state. She says recovery will likely take years. There's still some standing water and people looking for new homes.
There's approximately 55 people who are still in hotels that nonprofits are supporting.
The requested FEMA aid would be for residents to rebuild. Everything from cleaning up storm damage, restoring farmland, or fully replacing parts of their home. The governor says the state will ask for money to repair public property in February. Casey Martin, KUOW News.
An initiative intended to preserve access to natural gas is now before Washington's Supreme Court. Voters passed the measure in 2024, but a King County judge struck it down last spring as being overly broad. In oral arguments today, Justice Raquel Montoya Lewis asked an attorney whether initiatives can ever have multiple provisions to achieve their goals.
Because it seems to me that your proposal or the way that you're asking us to interpret this rule would result in potentially 50 initiatives that would need to be passed in order to accomplish the things that are happening here.
Environmental groups say the initiative title did not make all of its implications clear to voters. But the state attorney general and the building industry of Washington are defending it. They say all of its provisions involve a single focus on energy choice. The state's high court could decide the case in the next few months. Changes are not coming to the old metal gasification structures at Gasworks Park, at least not now. At a Seattle Landmarks Preservation Board meeting Wednesday, Seattle Parks officials proposed taking down ladders and catwalks. That's after a teenager fell off a structure and died last year. But the Preservation Board is punting a decision to a future date. In health news today, doctors are learning that what we call ovarian cancer actually starts in the fallopian tubes. That's led to new treatments for women at high risk of this deadly cancer, but it's also leading to recommendations for low-risk women as well. Eilish O'Neill reports.
Getting your tubes tied is a popular form of permanent contraception. In the U.S., more than 600,000 women get their tubes tied every year. That usually means cutting and tying, or sometimes burning or otherwise blocking the fallopian tubes. But Dr. Rebecca Stone says women should consider getting them removed entirely instead.
If women were able to universally choose to have their tubes removed instead of tied, and removed at the time of hysterectomy in the United States, we would prevent almost 2,000 cases of ovarian cancer every year.
Dr. Stone researches and treats ovarian cancer at Johns Hopkins Medicine. She says breastfeeding and certain kinds of birth control can also reduce ovarian cancer risk, although not nearly to the degree of tube removal. Eilish O'Neill, KUOW News.
Some tragic news from our mountains today. The bodies of 2 climbers have been recovered from Mount Rainier after being found in the Wilson Glacier area north of the Paradise parking lot. They hadn't been heard from since last Friday. The Seattle Times reports weather conditions prevented rescue crews from using aircraft to get to the climbers over the weekend. It's been a hard ski season. Earlier this month, 2 backcountry skiers died in an avalanche in the North Cascades, and a snowboarder died in a crash at Stevens Pass. The dust is still settling from REI's Board of Directors election last May when members voted to reject the co-op's entire slate of candidates. But the next election for the board is fast approaching. KNKX Murrow News fellow Nate Sanford has this story.
This year, the REI board has put up an uncontested slate of 3 candidates. Rose Marcario, the former CEO of Patagonia, incumbent board member Edward Phillip, former COO of Partners in Health, and Chuck Sams, a member of the Cayuse and Walla Walla tribes, who was the first Native American director of the National Parks Service. Sams was picked after REI put out a call for nominations from the membership. In last year's election, the REI union successfully rallied members to withhold their votes to protest the company's approach to labor issues. The union agreed not to weigh in this year as they negotiate first contracts for the 11 unionized REI stores. Active members of the co-op have until January 31st to vote. Nate Sanford, reporting.
Finally today, Seahawks management is feeling pretty good. Seahawks general manager John Schneider's been named the NFL's Executive of the Year by the Pro Football Writers of America. Among other things, Schneider helped construct a roster this season that won the most regular season games in franchise history. Next time on Seattle Now, it's Casual Friday. The Seahawks are one win away from another shot at the Super Bowl. You can knock on wood, but there is some optimism in our air in the studio.
I am feeling weirdly confident about the Seahawks.
Is this new
weekend.
for you?
Yes. I don't want to jinx anything.
Hear that and more tomorrow morning. That's all for today from the KUOW Newsroom in Seattle. Our producer is Andy Hurst, and I'm Paige Browning. Seattle Now and KUOW are members of the NPR network. See ya.